the sudden rush, the quickening pulse, the world sharpening into vivid focus around a single person. This is the visceral, often bewildering experience of falling in love. It is a phenomenon that transcends cultures and centuries, equally capable of inspiring ecstasy and agony, poetry and scientific inquiry. Is this profound shift in our internal and external landscape merely a complex dance of neurochemicals and evolutionary programming, a biological imperative ensuring the propagation of our species? Or is it something more, a spiritual calling, a glimpse of the divine, an echo of a deeper truth about our interconnectedness? This essay embarks on an integrated exploration of falling in love, weaving together the rigorous insights of modern psychology with the profound wisdom of spiritual traditions across the globe. Our purpose is not to reduce one perspective to the other, but to show how the psychological mechanisms that underpin attraction and bonding resonate with spiritual teachings on connection, longing, and transcendence. By examining both the how and the why of this universal human experience, we aim to uncover a more holistic understanding of love's transformative power, both for personal growth and spiritual awakening. From a psychological vantage point, falling in love is a rich tapestry woven from evolutionary biology, neuroscience, attachment theory, and cognitive psychology. Researchers like Dr. Helen Fisher have meticulously mapped the brain circuitry of romantic love, identifying the potent cocktail of dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin that orchestrates the initial stages of infatuation. We will delve into how ancient survival instincts shape our mate preferences, how early childhood experiences form our adult attachment styles, and how our cognitive biases construct the idealized image of a beloved. Psychology seeks to demystify the mechanisms, to understand the patterns, and to offer frameworks for navigating the complexities of romantic relationships. Yet, the experience of love often feels too vast, too sacred, to be fully contained within neurochemical explanations alone. Spiritual traditions, spanning millennia, have recognized falling in love as a potent catalyst for profound inner work and a pathway to deeper truth. Buddhist teachings, for instance, illuminate the nature of attachment and impermanence inherent in all relationships, offering a path to love without clinging. Christian contemplative wisdom speaks of agape, unconditional, self-sacrificing love, as a reflection of divine love, inviting us to see the beloved as a vessel for the sacred. Islamic and Sufi mystics explore ishq, a passionate divine love that purifies the heart and leads to the annihilation of the ego in the beloved. Hindu and Vedantic philosophies emphasize bhakti, devotional love, as a means to connect with the divine Atman within all beings. Even existential philosophy grapples with love as a radical act of authenticity and vulnerability, a profound choice to create meaning in a shared existence. These traditions offer frameworks for understanding love not just as an emotion, but as a spiritual practice, a mirror, and a path towards self-realization and ultimate union. Our journey through, says quote, 2, will, therefore, strive for a genuine integration of these seemingly disparate lenses. We will explore where psychological findings align with spiritual insights, how scientific understanding can deepen our appreciation for ancient wisdom, and how spiritual practices can inform our psychological well-being in love. This essay will not shy away from the paradoxes and complexities, acknowledging that love is simultaneously a biological drive, a psychological pattern, a spiritual discipline, and a profound mystery. Over the course of this exploration, we will navigate the following chapters. Chapter 2: The Biological Blueprint and Neurochemistry of Attraction. We will dissect the evolutionary roots of attraction, exploring how our ancient past shapes modern mate selection. This chapter will also map the brain's love circuitry, detailing the roles of dopamine, oxytocin, vasopressin, and other neurochemicals in fueling desire, attachment, and bonding, drawing on the work of researchers like Helen Fisher and Larry Young. Chapter 3: Developmental Foundations, Attachment Theory and Early Blueprints. This section will delve into the profound impact of early childhood experiences on adult romantic relationships. We will explore John Bowlby's attachment theory, the various adult attachment styles, secure, anxious, avoidant, disorganized, and how these internal working models influence our capacity to fall in love, form lasting bonds, and navigate relational challenges. Chapter 4: The Spiritual Dimensions of Attraction and Connection. Moving beyond biology, this chapter will explore how various spiritual traditions interpret the initial pull of attraction. We will consider Buddhist perspectives on tanha, craving, and upadana, clinging, Sufi insights on the longing for the beloved as a reflection of divine longing, ishq, and how indigenous wisdom traditions view connection as a sacred thread woven into the fabric of existence. Chapter 5: Love as a Path to Self-Realization and Transformation. Here, we will examine how falling in love serves as a powerful catalyst for personal and spiritual growth. Drawing from Christian contemplative traditions on agape and the purification of the heart, Hindu concepts of bhakti yoga, and the recognition of the divine within the other, and existential philosophies on authenticity and vulnerability, we will explore how love can unveil our true self and challenge our egoic structures. Chapter 6: Navigating the Shadows, Attachment, Suffering, and Detachment. This chapter will confront the inherent difficulties in love, exploring the psychological pain of attachment, loss, and disillusionment. We will integrate psychological concepts of grief and trauma with Buddhist teachings on dukkha, suffering, and the impermanence, anicca, of all conditioned phenomena, offering perspectives on how to find wisdom and compassion amidst the inevitable pain of loving. Chapter 7: Cultivating Conscious Love, Practices for Integration. This section will shift to practical applications, offering a range of psychological interventions and spiritual practices for fostering healthier, more conscious relationships. We will explore attachment-based therapy, cognitive behavioral techniques, and communication skills alongside Buddhist mindfulness and loving-kindness meditation, metta, Christian contemplative prayer, and Sufi practices of heart purification. Chapter 8: Synthesis and the Transformative Power of Love. In our concluding chapter, we will weave together the threads of psychology and spirituality, offering a synthetic understanding of falling in love as a journey of both healing and awakening. We will reflect on the universal wisdom gleaned from both scientific inquiry and sacred traditions, culminating in a contemplative vision of love's ultimate purpose, to draw us closer to ourselves, to each other, and to the boundless source of all being. This essay invites you to journey inward and outward, to engage both your intellect and your heart, as we seek to understand this profound and universal human experience. May this exploration illuminate the intricate dance between our biology and our spirit, revealing the deeper meaning embedded within the act of falling in love. Having charted the expansive terrain we intend to traverse, and having outlined the integrated framework through which we propose to understand the bewildering phenomenon of falling in love, we now descend from the conceptual overview to the very bedrock of our human experience. In this chapter, we shall commence our journey by meticulously examining the biological and psychological imperatives that first compel us into love's embrace, exploring the ancient echoes within our DNA and the intricate circuitry of our minds that orchestrate its initial stirrings. This is where love, in its most primal sense, begins its captivating dance within us, a dance older than conscious thought, yet profoundly shaping our every interaction. We begin then with the evolutionary imperative, recognizing that falling in love is not merely a modern romantic construct, but a deeply ingrained survival strategy honed over millions of years. From a purely biological standpoint, the drive to connect and reproduce is fundamental to the propagation of our species. Consider the immense vulnerability of human infants, demanding years of sustained parental care. This extended period of dependency, unparalleled in the animal kingdom, necessitated a powerful mechanism to bind parents together, ensuring the offspring's survival. Love, in this context, emerged as the ultimate biological glue, a potent, often irrational, force designed to foster pair bonding and cooperative child-rearing. It is a testament to natural selection's ingenuity, a brilliant solution to a profound evolutionary challenge. This perspective, while perhaps less romantic than poetic idealizations, does not diminish love's profundity. Rather, it grounds it in the very fabric of our existence. We are, in essence, programmed for connection, wired for the deeply rewarding experience of finding a mate and forming a lasting bond. This innate predisposition manifests as a series of cascading neurochemical events that, once triggered, can feel utterly overwhelming, sweeping us off our feet with an intensity that seems to defy rational explanation. Indeed, to truly grasp the visceral power of falling in love, we must turn our attention to the intricate landscape of the human brain, where this ancient imperative is translated into a symphony of neural activity. Modern neuroscience has afforded us unprecedented insights into the brain regions and chemical messengers that ignite and sustain this complex state. We understand now that love is not merely an emotion, but a sophisticated motivational system, akin to the drives for hunger or thirst, yet infinitely more nuanced. At the heart of this neurochemical orchestra lies the powerful interplay of dopamine, oxytocin, and vasopressin, among other critical players. When you first encounter someone who captivates your attention, the brain's reward system, particularly the ventral tegmental area, VTA, and the nucleus accumbens, springs to life. These are the same areas activated by addictive substances, explaining why the initial stages of love can feel so intensely exhilarating and all-consuming. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward, motivation, and craving, floods these pathways, creating a potent sense of euphoria and an intense focus on the beloved. This surge of dopamine fuels the obsessive thoughts, the tireless energy, and the heightened sense of purpose that characterize initial attraction. As Dr. Helen Fisher, a pioneering anthropologist and researcher in this field, has meticulously documented. This lust phase is driven by the desire for sexual gratification, while attraction is fueled by the dopamine system, leading to goal-directed behavior towards the loved one. We become singularly focused, driven by an almost primal urge to connect and merge. But attraction is more than just dopamine. It is also characterized by a decrease in serotonin levels, particularly in the orbitofrontal cortex, a region associated with judgment and decision-making. This dip in serotonin can contribute to the obsessive, intrusive thoughts about the beloved, and perhaps even to the temporary suspension of critical judgment, allowing us to overlook flaws and idealize the object of our affection. It is as if the brain temporarily suspends its usual analytical functions, paving the way for a more uninhibited, all-encompassing connection. As the relationship deepens and moves beyond the initial fervent attraction, a new set of neurochemicals takes center stage, fostering the bonds of attachment and long-term connection. Oxytocin, often dubbed the cuddle hormone or love hormone, is released during physical intimacy, touch, and particularly during orgasm, strengthening feelings of trust, bonding, and contentment. It plays a crucial role in forming the deep emotional connections that sustain relationships over time, fostering a sense of security and belonging. Similarly, vasopressin, another neuropeptide, is vital for long-term pair bonding, particularly in males, influencing protective behaviors and fidelity. These hormones work in concert to shift the intense, dopamine-fueled craving of early love into the calmer, more profound comfort and security of enduring partnership. Thus, we see that the experience of falling in love is a finely tuned biological process, a potent cocktail of neurochemicals that drives us towards connection, reproduction, and the perpetuation of our species. Yet, to reduce love solely to its neurochemical components would be to miss a significant dimension of its complexity. For while the brain provides the intricate machinery, the experience of love is profoundly shaped by our individual histories, particularly our earliest relationships. This brings us to the profound insights of attachment theory, a psychological framework developed by John Bowlby and further elaborated by Mary Ainsworth. Attachment theory posits that the bonds we form with our primary caregivers in infancy fundamentally shape our internal working models of relationships, influencing how we perceive ourselves, others, and the world. These models, essentially blueprints for relating, dictate our expectations, behaviors, and emotional responses in adult romantic partnerships. Consider the infant who experiences consistent, responsive care from a caregiver. They are likely to develop a secure attachment style. This individual learns that they are worthy of love, that others are reliable, and that expressing needs is safe. As adults, securely attached individuals tend to be comfortable with intimacy and independence, trusting of their partners, and effective at managing conflict. They approach love with an open heart, capable of both giving and receiving affection, without undue anxiety or avoidance. Conversely, an infant whose caregivers are inconsistently available or unresponsive might develop an anxious, preoccupied attachment style. These individuals often harbor a deep fear of abandonment, a constant need for reassurance, and an intense desire for closeness that can sometimes push partners away. They might idealize love, becoming overly dependent or demanding, struggling with a sense of self-worth that is tied to their partner's validation. Their internal working model tells them that love is precarious, requiring constant vigilance and effort to maintain. Then there are those who experience consistent rejection or emotional unavailability from caregivers, leading to an avoidant attachment style. These individuals learn to suppress their emotional needs, developing a fierce self-reliance and a discomfort with intimacy. In adult relationships, they may appear aloof, independent to a fault, and reluctant to commit fully. They might intellectualize emotions or withdraw when confronted with vulnerability, their internal working model telling them that closeness leads to pain or suffocation. It is imperative that we recognize the immense influence of these early relational patterns on our adult romantic lives. While we may believe we are freely choosing our partners and navigating relationships with conscious intent, our attachment styles operate largely unconsciously, drawing us towards certain types of individuals and influencing the dynamics we create. An anxious individual, for instance, might be unwittingly drawn to an avoidant partner, creating a dynamic that, while familiar, often perpetuates their deepest fears and insecurities. The secure individual, on the other hand, often seeks out and fosters secure relationships, creating a virtuous cycle of trust and mutual support. Understanding our own attachment style and that of our partners offers a powerful lens through which to demystify some of love's most persistent challenges. It allows us to move beyond simply blaming ourselves or our partners for relational difficulties, and instead to identify the underlying patterns that are playing out. This awareness is not about excusing behavior, but about fostering empathy, understanding, and ultimately the capacity for conscious change. We can, with effort and intention, begin to revise our internal working models, moving towards greater security and healthier patterns of relating. Thus, we have seen that falling in love is a multi-layered phenomenon, commencing with the ancient biological imperative to connect and reproduce, amplified by a sophisticated neurochemical reward system, and profoundly shaped by the blueprints of attachment laid down in our earliest years. These psychological and biological foundations provide the essential context for understanding why we are drawn to others, how our bodies and minds react, and what patterns we tend to repeat. Yet as we move forward, we must hold these insights in balance, for while these scientific explanations illuminate the mechanics of love, they do not fully encompass its mystery, its transformative power, or its capacity to transcend the purely physical. They describe the vessel, but not necessarily the sacred cargo it carries. In the chapters to come, we shall continue to build upon this foundation, exploring how these psychological underpinnings intersect with the deeper spiritual dimensions of love, revealing a tapestry far richer and more complex than any single discipline can fully articulate. We shall begin to ask, if love is so deeply rooted in our biology and psychology, what then is its spiritual purpose, and how does it invite us to grow beyond the confines of our conditioned selves? While the intricate dance of neurochemistry and the enduring imprint of attachment styles illuminate the foundational mechanics of how we fall in love, they do not by themselves fully account for the profound psychological complexities that emerge once these initial bonds are forged. They explain the how and the what of attraction and early bonding, but they leave us yearning for a deeper understanding of the why we are drawn to specific individuals. beyond mere biological imperative or the mirroring of childhood patterns. They do not fully encompass the often bewildering, sometimes painful, yet ultimately transformative journey that love invites us upon, a journey into the very heart of the self, reflected and refracted through the prism of another. This is where we must venture beyond the observable biological responses and the established behavioral patterns, delving into the deeper currents of the human psyche. We propose that falling in love, particularly in its romantic iteration, is not merely an external event but a potent internal unfolding, a catalyst for confronting the hidden landscapes of our own being. It is a process rich with projection, shadow, and the relentless, often uncomfortable truth-telling of the relational mirror. To begin this exploration, we turn to the profound insights offered by depth psychology, particularly the work of Carl Jung, whose concept of projection provides an illuminating framework for understanding the initial intensity and seemingly fated nature of romantic attraction. When we first encounter someone who stirs our soul, we often experience an almost instantaneous recognition, a sense of having known them forever, or of finding a missing piece of ourselves. This visceral pull, we contend, is often born from the unconscious act of projecting aspects of our inner world onto the other. We project our idealized self, our unmet desires, our hidden potentials, and even our unacknowledged wounds onto the beloved. The other becomes a screen upon which our deepest longings and archetypal images are cast. Consider the Jungian concepts of the inanima and the animus, the unconscious feminine aspect in men and the unconscious masculine aspect in women, respectively. These inner figures represent a bridge to the collective unconscious, embodying qualities that are often unexpressed or underdeveloped in our conscious personality. When we fall in love, we frequently project these potent archetypal images onto a partner, perceiving them as the embodiment of our ideal complement, the one who can complete us or help us reclaim lost parts of ourselves. This projection creates the intoxicating illusion of perfect harmony, a feeling of destiny that can be overwhelmingly powerful. The beloved in this initial phase is not seen as they truly are, but as a magnificent vessel for our own inner landscape, a living canvas for our unconscious desires. This initial phase, while exhilarating, is inherently unsustainable. As the relationship deepens and the reality of the other person begins to emerge, these projections inevitably begin to recede. The perfect partner reveals their imperfections, their distinct personality, their own set of needs and quirks that do not always align with our idealized image. This is often the genesis of the first significant challenges in a relationship, the period of sati disillusionment. It is a crucial juncture, for it is here that the true work of love begins. The falling away of projections is not a failure of love, but rather an invitation to a deeper, more authentic connection, one built not on fantasy, but on mutual acceptance and understanding of two distinct individuals. Yet projections extend beyond our idealized desires. Love also serves as a powerful conduit for confronting our shadow self. The shadow, in Jungian terms, comprises those aspects of our personality that we deem unacceptable, shameful, or contrary to our conscious self-image, and thus repress into the unconscious. These can be negative traits like anger, jealousy, or selfishness, but also positive ones like creativity, assertiveness, or sensuality, if they were suppressed during our upbringing. Our partners often unconsciously become mirrors reflecting these disowned parts back to us. We may find ourselves intensely irritated by a partner's perceived flaw, only to discover that it is a trait we secretly possess but refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. Or we might be drawn to someone who embodies a quality we deeply admire but believe we lack, prompting us to integrate that quality into our own being. The phenomenon of often has its roots in this dynamic. We are drawn to individuals who embody traits that complement our own, or, more profoundly, traits that represent our own undeveloped or repressed shadow aspects. A highly organized individual might find themselves drawn to a free spirit, while a reserved person might be captivated by an extrovert. This initial attraction is a subconscious yearning for wholeness, an attempt to integrate these disowned aspects by proxy. The relationship thus becomes a crucible where these hidden facets are brought to the surface, demanding recognition and integration. This confrontation can be painful, sparking conflict and discomfort. But it is precisely through this engagement with our shadow that genuine psychological growth and individuation occur. Love, in this sense, is not merely about finding someone to make us happy. It is about finding someone who will challenge us to become whole. The relationship then functions as an exquisitely sensitive mirror. Our partners reflect back to us not only our projections and our shadow, but also our deepest wounds, our unmet needs, and the patterns of relating that we have carried since childhood. This mirroring effect can be profoundly unsettling, as it strips away our defenses and forces us to confront aspects of ourselves we might prefer to ignore. When a partner triggers an intense emotional reaction within us, a feeling of abandonment, inadequacy, or betrayal, it is often an echo of an earlier unhealed wound. The partner is not necessarily causing the wound, but rather activating a pre-existing sensitivity, much like a specific note can vibrate a sympathetic string on another instrument. This understanding is critical for navigating the inevitable conflicts that arise in any intimate relationship. Instead of immediately blaming the partner for our distress, we are invited to pause and inquire. Quote 12. This shift from blame to self-inquiry transforms conflict from a destructive force into an opportunity for profound self-discovery and healing. It requires a radical act of self-responsibility, recognizing that while our partner's actions may be the catalyst, our emotional response is ultimately our own to understand and manage. Connected to this mirroring effect is the persistent influence of our ancestors to wounded inner child, and the highest unmet needs stemming from our earliest experiences. We noted in Chapter 2 how attachment styles shape our relational patterns. Chapter 3 deepens this by observing how adult romantic relationships often become unconscious stages for reenacting or attempting to heal these childhood wounds. We may unconsciously task our partners with fulfilling needs that were unmet by our primary caregivers, the need for unconditional affirmation, unwavering security, or complete understanding. This places an impossible burden on the partner, leading to inevitable disappointment, resentment, and conflict when they, being imperfect humans, fail to perfectly fulfill these often unspoken and unconscious demands. The path to mature love, therefore, involves recognizing these patterns, acknowledging our own inner child's needs, and taking responsibility for our own healing and self-parenting. It means learning to soothe our own anxieties, validate our own worth, and develop a secure internal attachment figure, rather than perpetually seeking external validation or expecting a partner to complete us. This journey from unconscious, need-driven relating to conscious, self-aware partnership is one of the most challenging yet ultimately rewarding aspects of long-term love. This distinction between unconscious love and conscious love is paramount. Falling in love, with its intoxicating blend of neurochemical surges, primal drives, and powerful projections, is largely an unconscious process. It is something that happens to us, often beyond our immediate control. It is the initial spark, the magnetic pull that initiates the journey. But to stay in love, to cultivate a relationship that endures and evolves, requires a conscious, deliberate choice. It demands a sustained commitment to understanding, empathy, vulnerability, and growth. It means choosing to love not just the idealized image, but the real, imperfect person, with all their complexities and challenges. In conscious love, conflict is not a sign of failure, but an inevitable and even necessary component of growth. When navigated with intention and respect, conflict can lead to deeper understanding, greater intimacy, and a more resilient bond. It provides opportunities to practice authentic communication, boundary setting, and empathy. The willingness to engage with discomfort, to repair ruptures, and to learn from disagreements is a hallmark of mature love. It is in the aftermath of conflict, in the conscious act of repair, acknowledging harm, taking responsibility, and reconnecting, that relationships truly deepen and trust is rebuilt on a more solid foundation. Thus, we contend that the psychological journey of falling and staying in love is a profound education in selfhood. It is a relentless invitation to shed illusions, confront our shadow, heal our wounds, and ultimately to expand our capacity for empathy and connection. Through the intricate dance of projection and reflection, love acts as a powerful crucible, forging us into more integrated, self-aware, and compassionate individuals. Yet, even as these psychological insights illuminate the immense potential for growth and transformation within intimate relationships, they still do not fully capture the transcendent feeling, the sense of destiny, or the profound spiritual longing that often accompanies a truly deep and enduring romantic connection. While the psyche is engaged in a profound process of individuation and integration, there remains an elusive quality, a whisper of something beyond the purely psychological. This profound sense of meaning, purpose, and spiritual resonance within love is what beckons us to explore its even deeper dimensions, moving beyond the confines of individual psychology to embrace the universal and the sacred, a journey we shall embark upon in the chapters that follow. While our exploration in Chapter 3 meticulously charted the psychological terrain of love, unmasking the intricate dance of projection, the reflective power of the shadow, and the profound journey from unconscious infatuation to conscious relational work, we acknowledged a lingering sense of incompletion. For all its explanatory power, the psychological lens, by its very nature, tends to focus on the human-centric, the individual and interpersonal dynamics. Yet, many who have experienced the profound depths of falling in love attest to something more, a feeling that transcends mere neurochemistry or attachment styles, a visceral sense of connection to something larger than themselves. It is this elusive, often bewildering dimension that now beckons our inquiry. Here, in Chapter 4, we turn our gaze towards the spiritual heart of love, proposing that the act of falling in love, and indeed sustaining it, can serve as a potent catalyst for spiritual awakening and a direct path to transcendence. We contend that romantic love, far from being merely a biological imperative or a complex psychological play, often functions as a sacred thread woven into the very fabric of existence, offering a glimpse into the divine, the universal, and the boundless potential of the human spirit. For millennia, mystics, philosophers, and spiritual teachers across diverse traditions have recognized love as the fundamental force of creation, the binding energy of the cosmos. When we speak of love in this context, we are not merely referring to affection or sentimentality, but to a profound, expansive state of being that seeks connection, unity, and truth. Within this grand spiritual narrative, the individual beloved often becomes a mirror, reflecting not only our own inner landscape, as we discussed previously, but also a fragment of this universal love, a conduit through which the divine presence can be experienced. Consider the teachings of Agawa in Christianity, an unconditional, selfless love that mirrors God's love for humanity. It is a love that gives without expectation, that seeks the highest good of the other. While perhaps an aspirational ideal in human relationships, the initial surge of romantic love can often feel like a brush with such unconditional acceptance, a moment where the beloved appears flawless, imbued with a sacred glow. Similarly, in Hinduism, particularly through the path of bhakti yoga, devotional love for a deity or guru is seen as a direct means to attain spiritual liberation. Yet this intense devotion can also be channeled through human relationships, where the partner is revered as a manifestation of the divine, a living embodiment of the sacred. The beloved becomes the focal point for an ecstatic longing that ultimately seeks union with the Absolute. Perhaps nowhere is this spiritualization of romantic love more eloquently articulated than in Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam. Here, ishq-e-hakiki, or divine love, is often reached through ishq-e-majazi, or earthly love. The passionate, sometimes agonizing longing for a human beloved is understood as a training ground, a mirror that awakens the soul's inherent yearning for union with the divine beloved, Allah. Poets like Rumi and Hafiz celebrated this intricate dance, where the pain of separation and the joy of union with a human partner become metaphors for the soul's journey back to its source. Quote, Siddin. Rumi famously wrote, quote, System. In this view, falling in love is not just about finding another person, it is about finding a catalyst that dismantles our internal walls, revealing the divine essence within us and within the other. This brings us to a crucial spiritual dimension of profound love, the dissolution of the ego and the path to self-transcendence. As we explored in Chapter 3, love often triggers our deepest insecurities and activates our shadow selves. From a spiritual perspective, this is not merely a psychological challenge but an initiation. The intense vulnerability demanded by deep intimacy, the surrender required to truly merge with another, begins to erode the carefully constructed edifice of the ego. The ego, with its rigid boundaries, its self-protective mechanisms, and its incessant, quote, 15 sasan, is often perceived in spiritual traditions as the primary impediment to experiencing universal love and oneness. When we truly open ourselves to another, the sense of a separate, isolated self begins to soften. We find ourselves acting not just for our own benefit, but for the well-being and happiness of our beloved. This selfless inclination, however fleeting or imperfect, is a profound spiritual practice. It is a stepping away from egocentricity towards an expanded awareness, a nascent form of anatta non-self in Buddhist thought, or the Yumnistal quote 16 in Christian mysticism. The boundaries between quote 17 and Jin and quote 18 blur, giving way to a nascent quote and this experience of shared consciousness, of feeling the other's joy and pain as our own, is not a loss of self but an expansion, a transcendence of the limited individual identity. Indeed, the relational mirror which psychologically reveals our wounds also functions spiritually as a sacred container for healing and inner work. The very conflicts and challenges that arise in a committed relationship, which we previously discussed as opportunities for conscious love, become profound spiritual lessons. When a partner triggers an old wound, instead of reacting with blame or withdrawal, the spiritual path invites us to embrace it as an opportunity for healing. It asks us to cultivate compassion, karuna, not just for our partner's imperfections, but for our own. It demands forgiveness, not just for the perceived transgressions of the other, but for the unforgiven aspects of ourselves. Through this crucible of relationship, we are invited to integrate fragmented parts of our being, to release old patterns of fear and attachment, and to grow into a more whole and authentic self. The relationship itself becomes a living mandala, a sacred space where transformation unfolds. This journey culminates in the profound longing for union and oneness, a desire that resonates deeply in both romantic love and spiritual quests. The experience of quote 20 with a partner, that exquisite feeling of being perfectly aligned and understood, of two souls merging into a singular consciousness, is often described as a glimpse of the divine. It echoes the non-dualistic teachings of Advaita Vedanta, where the individual soul, Atman, is ultimately indistinguishable from the universal consciousness, Brahman. This is not to be confused with unhealthy enmeshment or codependency, where two incomplete individuals cling to each other out of fear. Rather, it is the conscious merging of two whole integrated beings who choose to experience a deeper reality together, recognizing their inherent interconnectedness. It is an experience of unity that affirms the truth that separation is ultimately an illusion. From this place of union, the capacity for unconditional love truly blossoms. Beyond the initial projections and the inevitable disillusionments, conscious love matures into an acceptance of the beloved in their entirety, flaws, vulnerabilities, and all. This is where the Buddhist practice of metta, or loving kindness, becomes paramount. It is the cultivation of a boundless, benevolent regard for the other, wishing them well-being and happiness without condition. This unconditional love is not passive. It is an active choice, a continuous practice of empathy, patience, and unwavering support. It recognizes the inherent worth and divinity within the other, regardless of their actions or perceived imperfections. To love another unconditionally is to see them through the eyes of the divine, to recognize their true essence beyond the transient veil of personality. Ultimately, the spiritual journey of falling in love is a transformative process that expands our capacity for love far beyond the confines of the romantic relationship. The lessons learned within the intimate embrace, compassion, forgiveness, selflessness, ego dissolution, the yearning for unity, are not meant to remain exclusive to the couple. Instead, they serve as a rigorous training ground, preparing us to extend that same expansive love to our communities, to humanity, and indeed to all sentient beings. The intense, focused energy of romantic love can become a potent springboard, propelling us towards a more universal, inclusive love, a profound recognition of the interconnectedness of all life. Thus, we contend that falling in love is not merely an event, but an ongoing pilgrimage. It is a profound, often bewildering path that intertwines the visceral realities of human psychology with the transcendent aspirations of the spirit. It is a journey that begins with the intoxicating, potent cocktail of attraction, navigates the intricate dance of projection and shadow, and ultimately, if we choose to engage with conscious awareness, leads us towards an awakening, a deeper understanding of ourselves, our beloved, and our place within the grand, sacred tapestry of existence. It is a path towards spiritual liberation, where the love we experience with another becomes a direct conduit to the boundless love that permeates the universe, culminating in a profound sense of oneness and peace. Having explored the spiritual dimensions of love, recognizing its potential for ego dissolution, healing, and transcendence, we must now turn our attention to the challenges inherent in sustaining such a profound connection. For while the peak experiences of love can be exhilarating, the daily practice of conscious relationship demands unwavering commitment, resilience, and a willingness to navigate the inevitable complexities that arise when two distinct beings choose to walk a shared spiritual path. It is to these practicalities and the art of sustaining conscious love that we will dedicate our next chapter. We have journeyed through the intricate landscapes of love, from its primal biological stirrings and neurochemical orchestrations to the profound imprints of early attachment, the unconscious projections of the psyche, and finally its sacred resonance as a conduit for spiritual awakening. We have seen how love, in its bewildering complexity, serves not merely as a mechanism for pair bonding, but as a potent catalyst for self-discovery, healing, and transcendence. It is a force that, when understood deeply, can dismantle the ego, reveal the shadow, and ultimately point towards a universal oneness. Yet, intellectual comprehension, however profound, is but the initial step on this transformative path. To truly embody the wisdom we have explored, we must now turn our attention to the crucible of lived experience. How do we navigate the inevitable challenges inherent in any intimate relationship? And how do we consciously cultivate a love that reflects the integrated understanding we have painstakingly built? The insights gleaned from psychology and spirituality, while illuminating, are not passive knowledge. They are tools for active engagement, demanding a mindful and deliberate approach to relational dynamics. Falling in love, as we have observed, often feels like a descent into a blissful dream, a potent cocktail of neurochemicals and idealized projections. Remaining in love, however, and evolving that initial infatuation into a mature, conscious bond, requires an ascent of awareness, a continuous commitment to growth. This ascent is rarely smooth. Conflict, disappointment, boredom, and fear are not anomalies to be avoided, but rather integral components of the alchemical process of conscious love. They are the friction points, the mirrors reflecting our unhealed wounds and our ego's tenacious grip, providing invaluable opportunities for deeper integration. Cultivating conscious love, therefore, is not about eliminating difficulties. It is about transforming our relationship to those difficulties. It is an ongoing practice, a daily choice to engage with our partner and ourselves from a place of presence, empathy, and spiritual intention. This chapter invites you to consider the practical applications of our journey thus far, to translate theoretical understanding into tangible relational wisdom. One of the foundational pillars of conscious love is mindful communication. We have discussed how early attachment styles and unconscious projections can trigger reactive patterns, leading to misunderstandings, blame, and emotional distance. Conscious communication, by contrast, demands a pause, an intentional stepping back from the immediate surge of emotion. It requires us to observe our internal landscape, our fears, our unmet needs, our shadow projections, before we speak. Instead of reacting from a place of woundedness or defensiveness, we are invited to respond from a place of self-awareness and empathy. This means articulating our experiences using I statements, taking responsibility for our feelings, and actively listening to our partner without formulating our rebuttal. It is in this vulnerable, open exchange that the ego begins to soften, and genuine connection can re-emerge, even amidst disagreement. Just as the Sufi mystics speak of ishq as a process of dissolving the self into the beloved, mindful communication allows for the dissolution of egoic boundaries to create a space for shared understanding and compassion. Hand in hand with mindful communication is the practice of radical acceptance and forgiveness. As the initial intoxicating haze of infatuation dissipates, the beloved's imperfections, once overlooked or even charming, can become sources of irritation or disillusionment. This is the moment when the mirror of relationship truly comes into focus, reflecting not only our desires but also our own unacknowledged flaws. Radical acceptance means embracing our partner exactly as they are, acknowledging their humanity, their strengths and their weaknesses, without needing them to change to meet our idealized image. It is a recognition that our partner, like ourselves, is on their own unique journey of growth and imperfection. Forgiveness, then, becomes not merely an act of letting go of resentment, but a profound spiritual practice. It is a release from the ego's desire for justice or retribution, a conscious choice to dissolve the energetic ties of grievance that bind us to past hurts. Whether forgiving our partner for perceived wrongs or forgiving ourselves for our own shortcomings, forgiveness clears the path for renewed intimacy and allows love to flow unimpeded. It is a testament to the understanding that human relationships are inherently messy, and that true love flourishes not in the absence of mistakes, but in the willingness to repair, reconcile, and move forward with an open heart. This resonates deeply with the Christian concept of agape, which calls for an unconditional self-sacrificing love that extends grace even in the face of human failing. Furthermore, cultivating conscious love necessitates the cultivation of compassion. Drawing from Buddhist traditions, metta or loving-kindness meditation extends beyond the romantic partner to encompass all beings, starting with oneself. In a relationship context, compassion means not only feeling empathy for our partner's struggles, but actively wishing them well, desiring their happiness and freedom from suffering. When conflicts arise, rather than seeing our partner as an adversary, we can approach them with a compassionate curiosity, seeking to understand the underlying pain or fear that might be driving their behavior. This shift in perspective from judgment to compassion is profoundly transformative. It allows us to see beyond the surface argument to the deeper human needs at play, fostering a sense of shared humanity rather than division. This expansive compassion is a direct manifestation of the spiritual insight that our longing for union with a partner is a glimpse of a greater, universal love. Conscious love also invites us to explore the concept of shared purpose and vision. While early love often focuses on individual needs and desires, mature love can evolve into a co-creative partnership, when two individuals align not only in their affection, but also in their values, aspirations, and a shared vision for their lives or even for the world. Their love takes on a new dimension of meaning and impact. This shared purpose can be anything from raising a family with specific values, building a business, engaging in community service, or pursuing a spiritual path together. Such a shared vision transforms the relationship from a dyadic exchange into a force that extends beyond the couple, contributing to a broader good. It is in this co-creation that the individual ego finds its most profound integration, realizing that its greatest fulfillment lies not in isolation but in contribution and connection. This echoes the spiritual journey towards Bhakti Yoga, where devotion to the divine often manifests as selfless service and a desire to uplift others. Crucially, conscious love holds the paradox of maintaining individuality within union. The initial stages of falling in love can sometimes lead to a merging of identities, a temporary loss of self in the other. While this can feel exhilarating, sustainable love requires both partners to retain and nurture their unique essence. We are called to honor our own growth, our individual passions, and our personal spiritual journeys, even as we deeply intertwine with another. Our partner, rather than completing us, serves as a companion on our path, a witness to our unfolding, and a catalyst for our becoming. This dynamic creates a richer, more vibrant relationship, where two whole individuals choose to walk together, rather than two halves seeking completion in each other. It is in this delicate balance, the dance between self and other, autonomy and interdependence, that the true artistry of conscious love is revealed. We are reminded that while the beloved mirrors the divine, they are not the divine itself. The path to ultimate union requires both a deepening connection with the other and a continuous journey inward. To support this continuous growth, the role of spiritual practice cannot be overstated. Whether through meditation, prayer, contemplative journaling, or shared rituals, engaging in practices that connect us to a deeper wisdom can profoundly nourish conscious love. These practices provide a sanctuary for introspection, a space to process emotions, and a means to cultivate inner peace and clarity. When both partners commit to their individual spiritual development, they bring a richer, more grounded presence to the relationship. Shared spiritual practices, such as meditating together, discussing sacred texts, or engaging in acts of service, can also forge a powerful bond, creating a shared spiritual language and a deeper sense of interconnectedness. Ultimately, conscious love is not a destination to be reached, but an ongoing path of awakening. It is a dynamic process of learning, unlearning, and relearning. It demands courage to face our shadows, humility to admit our mistakes, and an unwavering commitment to growth. It is the realization that the beloved is not merely an object of affection, but a sacred teacher, a fellow traveler on the journey towards wholeness. Every interaction, every challenge, every moment of joy or sorrow becomes an opportunity to deepen our understanding of ourselves, our partner, and the boundless nature of love itself. As we move forward, we will delve further into specific practices and perspectives that aid in sustaining this conscious journey, exploring how the wisdom traditions offer concrete methodologies for navigating the complexities of long-term intimacy. For now, we invite you to reflect on these pillars of conscious love, to consider how you might actively integrate mindful communication, radical acceptance, forgiveness, compassion, shared purpose, and the delicate balance of individuality within union into your own relationships. This is where the true work begins, the beautiful, challenging, and profoundly rewarding work of bringing consciousness to the most potent of human experiences. Having meticulously charted the intricate terrain of falling in love, from its primal biological stirrings and the unconscious projections of depth psychology, through its profound spiritual awakening and into the practical architectures of conscious cultivation, we now stand at the threshold of its most enduring and transformative phase. For love, in its profoundest manifestation, is not merely a state to be achieved or a fleeting ecstasy to be savoured, but a dynamic process of ceaseless evolution, an ongoing alchemy that refines and transfigures the very fabric of our being. This chapter, then, invites you to journey with us into the heart of mature love, exploring its enduring qualities, its capacity for expansive growth, and its ultimate role as a conduit for wisdom and liberation. We have seen how the initial intensity, a potent cocktail of neurochemicals and idealized projections, serves as the initial spark, drawing two souls into a magnetic field of mutual fascination. But what becomes of this potent energy when the initial dazzle recedes, when the projections inevitably crumble, and the beloved stands revealed in their full imperfect humanity? It is at this juncture, often mistaken for the waning of love, that its true work begins. The patient, courageous labour of transforming infatuation into an enduring connection, rooted in radical acceptance and a profound shared understanding. This is the crucible where conscious love is truly forged, not in the absence of challenge, but through its embrace. The journey from initial infatuation to enduring love is one of continuous revelation, a gradual peeling back of layers, both within ourselves and within the beloved. We move from loving an idealized image to loving the real person, with all their vulnerabilities, complexities, and shadow aspects. This transition demands a deepening of the practices we outlined in the previous chapter. Mindful communication becomes a sacred dialogue, forgiveness a constant grace, and compassion the bedrock upon which trust is continuously rebuilt. Here, the beloved truly becomes the sacred teacher, reflecting not only our unhealed wounds but also our untapped capacities for boundless patience, empathy, and unconditional regard. This evolutionary process is akin to an alchemical transformation, where the lead of individual ego and expectation is slowly transmuted into the gold of shared consciousness and interwoven destiny. It is in this sustained engagement with another human being, in the shared navigation of life's inevitable joys and sorrows, that a unique gene quote Testis 23 space emerges. This is not a merging that obliterates individuality, but rather an interdependence where two distinct selves cultivate a shared narrative, a collective memory, and a mutual vision for the future, each enriching the other while remaining authentically themselves. The paradox of mature love, then, is that it simultaneously deepens our connection to another and strengthens our own sense of self, fostering a radical freedom within the bond. As the relationship matures, the initial biological imperative for pair bonding, while foundational, begins to recede in prominence, giving way to a more sophisticated tapestry of psychological and spiritual connections. The thrill of novelty is replaced by the profound comfort of familiarity, the excitement of discovery by the deep resonance of shared history. This is not to say that passion dissipates entirely, but rather that it evolves, transforming from a fiery blaze into a steady, radiant warmth, capable of illuminating the darkest corners of existence. This enduring flame is fueled by a conscious commitment to growth, both individual and relational, and by a willingness to continually choose love, even when it demands sacrifice, vulnerability, or the courage to confront discomfort. Moreover, the lessons learned within the intimate dyad begin to expand beyond its boundaries, radiating outwards. The compassion cultivated for the beloved, the radical acceptance extended to their imperfections, the patience practiced in moments of conflict, these become transferable skills, shaping our interactions with the wider world. The heart, once focused intensely on a single individual, begins to stretch, expanding its capacity for empathy and understanding to encompass family, friends, community, and ultimately humanity itself. This is where human love, in its mature form, begins to mirror and embody the universal love, agape, metta, ishq, we explored in Chapter 4. The personal relationship becomes a training ground for universal compassion, a microcosm wherein we learn to practice the unconditional love that spiritual traditions deem divine. Through the crucible of time, navigating shared dreams and unexpected detours, celebrating triumphs and enduring losses, the relationship becomes a profound source of wisdom. Each challenge overcome, each forgiveness granted, each moment of profound connection deepens the wellspring of resilience and insight. We learn about our own triggers, our deepest fears, and our most profound desires through the reflection of the other. We discover the power of presence, the sanctity of listening, and the transformative potential of vulnerability. This wisdom is not merely intellectual, it is an embodied knowing, etched into the very fibres of our being, shaping our character and refining our understanding of what it means to be human. This enduring alchemy also brings us closer to a profound sense of self-acceptance. In a relationship where we are truly seen, truly heard, and truly loved, not for an idealized projection, but for our authentic selves, we are given permission to shed the masks we wear for the world. The beloved becomes a safe harbour where our imperfections are not merely tolerated, but embraced as integral parts of our unique tapestry. This radical acceptance from another helps us cultivate it within ourselves, dissolving shame and fostering a deeper sense of wholeness. It is through this reciprocal process of seeing and being seen, of accepting and being accepted, that we experience a profound liberation, a freedom to simply be. Yet the path of enduring love is not without its trials. It demands continuous effort and unwavering commitment to growth, and the courage to confront the inevitable moments of disillusionment, boredom, or conflict. It requires us to continually shed old patterns, to release limiting beliefs about ourselves and our partners, and to embrace the fluidity of life. The temptation to revert to unconscious patterns, to retreat into defensive postures, or to seek external validation remains a constant undertow. However, it is precisely in navigating these challenges with consciousness and compassion that love deepens its roots, transforming from a fragile bloom into a mighty resilient tree, capable of weathering any storm. Ultimately, the enduring alchemy of the heart leads us to understand that love is not a destination, but an infinite journey, a boundless source from which we can continually draw, and to which we can continually contribute. It is an active verb, a way of being in the world, characterized by an open heart, a discerning mind, and a spirit of unwavering connection. The beloved, in this transfigured understanding, is not merely a partner, but a fellow traveller on the path of awakening, a divine mirror reflecting our own evolving divinity, and a constant reminder of the interconnectedness that binds all existence. As we conclude this exploration of love's enduring evolution, we recognize that while we have meticulously dissected its mechanisms and illuminated its profound implications, the ultimate mystery of love remains, shimmering just beyond the grasp of full articulation. It is in this profound reverence for the unknown, for the ineffable quality that transcends all our theories and definitions, that we find its deepest truth. This integrative journey has sought not to demystify love entirely, but to deepen your appreciation for its bewildering complexity and its transformative power, inviting you to engage with it more consciously, more courageously, and with an ever-expanding heart. For in the end, it is through the enduring alchemy of love that we come to know ourselves, each other, and the boundless source from which all life springs. In our concluding chapter, we will synthesize these diverse threads, offering a comprehensive vision of love as the ultimate catalyst for human flourishing and spiritual unification, and reflecting upon the enduring enigma that continues to inspire, challenge, and elevate the human spirit. We will explore how this integrated understanding of love can serve not only as a personal guide, but as a blueprint for a more compassionate and interconnected world. We have journeyed together through the intricate landscapes of falling in love, navigating its visceral biological imperatives, its profound psychological depths, and its breathtaking spiritual ascensions. We have witnessed how the initial spark of attraction ignites a potent alchemical process, transforming individuals and forging a shared. Quote 24. Space. Chapter 6, in particular, illuminated the enduring alchemy of mature love, a connection built not on fleeting infatuation, but on radical acceptance, unwavering compassion, and a shared commitment to growth. We observed how this evolved love fosters an expansion of consciousness, radiating wisdom and self-acceptance, and hinted at its capacity to extend beyond the intimate dyad. Now, we turn our gaze towards this broader horizon, exploring how the profound lessons learned within the sacred crucible of romantic love can ripple outwards, transforming not just two lives, but the very fabric of our collective existence. For too long, perhaps, the discourse surrounding love has remained largely confined to the personal, the romantic, the familial. We celebrate the lover, the partner, the parent, the child, and rightly so. for these are the crucibles in which our deepest human connections are forged. Yet, to truly understand the psychology of falling in love, to grasp its ultimate purpose and potential, we must recognize that its transformative power is not meant to be contained within the boundaries of a single relationship. Rather, it serves as a profound training ground, a preparatory initiation for a far grander undertaking, the cultivation of universal compassion and the embrace of the collective heart. Consider, if you will, the dynamics of a truly conscious, mature love as we meticulously explored them in the preceding chapters. What are its hallmarks? Radical acceptance of the other, flaws and all, the capacity for profound empathy, seeing the world through your beloved's eyes, the willingness to forgive, not once, but repeatedly, the dedication to fostering growth, both individual and shared, and an unwavering commitment to the well-being of the other. These are not merely virtues confined to the romantic realm. They are the very cornerstones of ethical living, the foundational principles upon which harmonious communities and a just society are built. The radiant energy generated by two individuals in a state of conscious, mature love is not an insular phenomenon. It possesses an inherent luminosity, a vibrational quality that naturally extends beyond their immediate sphere. Just as a stone dropped into a still pond sends ripples across its entire surface, so too does the authentic love between two people radiate outwards, touching and influencing those around them. It is a quiet testament to the possibility of connection, a living example of what is achievable when vulnerability is embraced, and ego is surrendered to a greater union. We begin with the expanding circles of compassion. The journey of self-discovery inherent in romantic love, particularly as illuminated by depth psychology, forces us to confront our own shadows, to heal our own wounds, and ultimately, to cultivate a profound self-acceptance. This internal work is the necessary precursor to truly loving another without projection or expectation. Once this foundation of self-love is established, and then extended to the beloved in a healthy, reciprocal relationship, the capacity for compassion naturally begins to broaden. The empathy developed for a partner, the understanding of their struggles and joys becomes a template. We learn to see the humanity in the other, to recognize shared vulnerabilities and aspirations. From the intimate dyad, this expanded compassion flows organically to family and close friends. The skills of active listening, nonviolent communication, and unconditional regard, honed within the romantic partnership, find new applications. Conflicts become opportunities for deeper understanding. Differences are met with acceptance rather than judgment, and support becomes a natural extension of care. This is not to say that these extensions are without their own unique challenges. Indeed, each new circle demands a fresh application of the very principles we have discussed. Yet, the emotional musculature developed in the primary relationship makes these expansions not only possible, but increasingly natural. As these circles widen further, encompassing community and ultimately humanity, the philosophical and spiritual underpinnings of universal love become profoundly relevant once more. We recall the Buddhist practice of metta, or loving-kindness meditation, which systematically guides practitioners to cultivate boundless love, first for oneself, then for a dear friend, then for a neutral person, then for a difficult person, and finally, for all beings without distinction. This ancient practice offers a meticulously structured pathway for extending the very compassion and acceptance we strive for in our intimate relationships to the entirety of existence. The journey of falling in love, when approached with consciousness, becomes a lived meta practice, albeit an often chaotic and unscripted one. Similarly, the Christian concept of agape, which we explored as unconditional self-sacrificial love, transcends the boundaries of personal affection. It is a divine love, extended not just to the beloved, but to the stranger, the outcast, and even the enemy. The development of unconditional regard for a partner, a love that persists despite challenges and imperfections, provides a tangible experience of agape in action. It teaches us that love is not merely a feeling, but a choice, a commitment, a way of being that can be intentionally cultivated and expanded. From the mystical traditions, such as Sufism and Vedanta, we encounter the profound truth of interconnectedness. If, as these traditions assert, all of existence is ultimately a manifestation of the divine, if we are all threads in the same cosmic tapestry, then love for one is, in essence, love for all. The beloved in this view becomes a mirror not just of our own soul, but of the universal soul. To fall deeply in love, then, is to glimpse this unity, to experience a dissolution of the ego that extends beyond the individual, quote, 25 sixth, and even the relational, says quote, 36, towards a boundless, quote, 29. This realization imbues romantic love with an even greater significance, transforming it into a spiritual exercise in recognizing the divine in every face, every being. Yet, we must acknowledge the inherent challenges in extending love universally. It is one thing to cultivate compassion for a partner with whom we share intimacy, history, and mutual affection. It is quite another to extend that same boundless love to those who are difficult, those who hold opposing views, those who have caused harm, or those we perceive as fundamentally. Quote, 28. This is where the practice of conscious love within the dyad serves as an indispensable preparation. The skills of radical acceptance, forgiveness, empathy, and patient understanding, honed in the crucible of intimate relationship, become the very tools we need to navigate the complexities of human interaction on a larger scale. Consider the act of forgiveness within a relationship. It often requires setting aside personal offense, attempting to understand the other's perspective, and choosing to release resentment for the sake of the connection. These are precisely the capacities required to bridge divides in communities, to foster reconciliation in societies, and to move beyond cycles of hatred and retribution. The willingness to engage in difficult conversations, to listen deeply even when disagreeing, to seek common ground. All these are skills refined through the daily practice of conscious partnership. However, universal love does not imply a naive acceptance of harm or a dissolution of healthy boundaries. Indeed, discernment remains paramount. To love universally is not to condone injustice or to refrain from advocating for change. Rather, it is to approach even those deemed adversaries with a foundational recognition of their inherent humanity, to understand that their actions, however destructive, often stem from their own unhealed wounds, fears, and unmet needs. It is to hold the possibility of their transformation, even as we firmly protect ourselves and others from harm. This nuanced understanding, the ability to balance compassion with wisdom, is a hallmark of truly mature love, whether personal or universal. Ultimately, the journey of falling in love, when consciously undertaken, is a profound catalyst for collective healing. Each individual who cultivates conscious love within their life contributes to a shift in the collective consciousness. As more individuals move from fear-based, ego-driven interactions to love-based, compassionate engagements, the ripple effect accumulates. Personal peace inevitably contributes to global peace. The empathy and understanding fostered in intimate connections become the building blocks for societal cohesion, for justice, for a world where shared humanity triumphs over artificial divisions. We propose, therefore, that the psychology of falling in love, far from being a mere study of romantic attachment, is in fact a foundational inquiry into the very nature of human connection and our capacity for universal compassion. It is a roadmap, however complex and winding, towards a more integrated and loving existence, both individually and collectively. The intimate dance of two souls, when performed with awareness and intention, becomes a sacred training for the grander symphony of humanity. It is in this expansion, this recognition of love's boundless potential, that we begin to glimpse the ultimate purpose of this most bewildering and beautiful human experience. As we stand on the precipice of this understanding, having traced love from its primal urges to its highest spiritual expressions, we are left not with simple answers, but with an even deeper reverence for its mystery. Yet, this mystery is no longer opaque. It is illuminated by the integrated insights of science and spirit. The journey inward, through the self, and into the heart of another, inevitably leads outward towards the boundless ocean of universal love. In the final chapter, we will synthesize these threads, offering a concluding reflection on the enduring enigma of the heart and its transformative power to shape not only our individual destinies, but the very future of our shared world. The psychology of falling in love, then, is not merely a study of attraction, but an invitation to participate in the ongoing evolution of consciousness itself. Having journeyed through the intimate landscapes of romantic love, from its primal biological stirrings to its profound psychological and spiritual transformations within the dyad, we arrive now at a pivotal juncture. For the love that blossoms between two individuals, when consciously cultivated and deeply understood, is never meant to remain confined to that sacred space. Indeed, its most magnificent potential lies in its capacity to expand, to ripple outward, touching not only the immediate circles of family and friendship, but ultimately contributing to the vast tapestry of collective healing and global compassion. It is here that the lessons forged in the crucible of a conscious relationship transcend personal fulfillment to become a potent force for a more interconnected and harmonious world. We have seen how the deliberate practice of mindful communication, radical acceptance, and unconditional forgiveness within a loving partnership refines the very essence of one's being. These are not mere relational tactics. They are profound spiritual disciplines. When you learn to truly see the beloved beyond the projections and the ego's demands, when you embrace their imperfections as integral to their wholeness, and when you extend grace in moments of misunderstanding, you are not simply nurturing a relationship. You are, in fact, honing the very skills necessary for universal compassion. The intimate relationship becomes a microcosm, a training ground where empathy is sharpened, patience is stretched, and the inherent interconnectedness of all life begins to reveal itself. Consider the profound shift from an egocentric perspective, often dominant in the initial stages of infatuation, to an other-centric awareness fostered by mature love. This shift, initially directed towards the beloved, slowly but inevitably begins to encompass others. The capacity to hold space for another's pain, to celebrate their joy, and to genuinely wish for their well-being, once perfected in the intimate sphere, finds a natural extension. We begin to perceive the suffering of strangers with greater sensitivity, to recognize the shared humanity in those who are different, and to feel a deeper resonance with the collective pulse of life. This is the practical application of spiritual insights. The recognition that the other is, in essence, a reflection of the self, and that the love we cultivate for one is a training for the love we can extend to all. This expansion of love finds echoes across myriad spiritual traditions, transcending cultural and historical boundaries. In Buddhism, the practice of metta, or loving-kindness meditation, begins with cultivating boundless love for oneself, then for a loved one, then for a neutral person, an enemy, and finally, for all sentient beings without distinction. The romantic relationship, in this context, serves as a powerful accelerator for the initial stages of this practice. It teaches us the visceral experience of wanting another's happiness, of extending warmth and good wishes, and of letting go of judgment. Similarly, the Christian concept of agape, an unconditional self-sacrificing love, though often directed towards the divine and humanity, finds its most accessible practice ground in the demanding yet rewarding context of a committed partnership. It is here that the ego's boundaries are most consistently challenged, and the capacity for giving without expectation is most rigorously tested. Sufi mystics, too, speak of ishq-e-hakiki, or true love, which transcends the earthly ishq-e-majazi, metaphorical love, often romantic, to embrace the divine, recognizing the beloved as a mirror reflecting the ultimate beloved. The intensity and devotion inherent in romantic love become a ladder, a preparatory school for a broader, more encompassing spiritual love. But how does this expansion manifest in tangible ways within the collective? A couple deeply rooted in conscious love becomes, in essence, a beacon. Their interactions, marked by respect, understanding, and compassion, serve as a subtle yet powerful example to their children, their friends, and their wider community. They model constructive conflict resolution, empathetic listening, and the sustained effort required to maintain connection. Children raised in an environment where love is not just a feeling, but a conscious practice of mutual regard and growth, are more likely to internalize these values, carrying them forward into their own relationships and interactions with the world. Moreover, the emotional intelligence cultivated within a conscious partnership, the ability to identify and regulate one's own emotions, to understand and influence the emotions of others, and to navigate complex social dynamics with grace, is transferable to all facets of life. Imagine a society where these skills are widely practiced, where leaders approach challenges with empathy, where communities foster genuine connection over division, and where differences are met with curiosity rather than fear. The seeds of such a society are sown in the countless intimate relationships where individuals commit to seeing, understanding, and loving each other in their full, complex humanity. Consider the profound societal challenges we face today: pervasive loneliness, political polarization, environmental degradation, and systemic injustices. While these issues are complex and multifaceted, many stem from a fundamental disconnection, a breakdown in empathy, a lack of understanding, and an inability to recognize our shared vulnerability and interdependence. If love, as we have explored it, is fundamentally about connection, about dissolving the illusion of separateness, then its expansion holds immense potential for healing these societal wounds. When individuals are grounded in a deep sense of connection and belonging, first within themselves, then within their primary relationship, and subsequently within their community, they are more resilient, more compassionate, and more motivated to contribute positively to the world. This is not to suggest that romantic love is the sole panacea for all global ills, but rather that it is a powerful, accessible, and often overlooked catalyst for the development of qualities essential for collective well-being. The humility learned when one's ego is challenged by a beloved, the patience cultivated through navigating shared struggles, the joy found in selfless giving. These are the building blocks of a more compassionate civilization. When we truly understand that our well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of others, we begin to act not just for personal gain, but for the greater good. This shift from an individualistic paradigm to one of interconnectedness is precisely what many spiritual traditions advocate, and romantic love can be a powerful lived initiation into this profound truth. The journey of love, therefore, extends beyond the intimate embrace. It becomes a spiritual pilgrimage into the heart of humanity itself. The lessons of vulnerability and courage, of presence and acceptance, learned within the intense laboratory of a committed relationship, equip us to engage with the world with greater wisdom and compassion. We learn that love is not merely a passive emotion, but an active force, a choice, a commitment to growth and connection that demands continuous effort. And it is this sustained effort, multiplied across countless individuals and relationships, that slowly but surely begins to weave a new, more resilient and more compassionate social fabric. As we move towards the culmination of our exploration, we recognize that the integrated understanding of love, its biological imperative, its psychological complexities, and its spiritual transcendence is not just an academic exercise. It is an invitation to live more fully, to love more deeply, and to contribute more consciously to the world around us. For in the final analysis, the psychology of falling in love is not merely a study of individual human experience, it is a foundational inquiry into the very nature of human connection and its ultimate potential to elevate the human spirit and shape a more compassionate future. It is a testament to the profound truth that the love we cultivate in our hearts has the power to echo outwards, transforming not just our own lives, but the very world we inhabit. The final chapter, then, will seek to synthesize these diverse threads, offering a concluding reflection on love's enduring mystery and its transformative promise. Having meticulously traced the trajectory of love from its evolutionary origins and neurochemical underpinnings to its profound capacity for individual transformation and spiritual awakening, we now arrive at a pivotal juncture. We have seen how the crucible of conscious romantic love, with its demands for radical acceptance, mindful communication, and ego surrender, refines the self, preparing it not merely for deeper intimacy within the dyad, but for an expansive engagement with the world itself. the skills painstakingly cultivated within the sacred container of a committed relationship, empathy, forgiveness, compassion, and the dissolution of the egoic self, do not, we contend, remain confined to that intimate sphere. Rather, they are the very threads that, once strengthened, begin to weave a far grander tapestry, unfurling outward to embrace family, community, and ultimately the entirety of humanity. This outward ripple, this expansion of the heart's capacity, is not a mere byproduct, but, we propose, the inherent telos of love's journey. Just as a stone dropped into a still pond sends concentric circles ever wider, so too does the awakened heart, once it has learned to navigate the turbulent currents of personal relationship, find itself compelled to extend its benevolent gaze. You, the reader, having journeyed with us through the intricate dance of attachment and projection, disillusionment and conscious choice, may now perceive how the very mechanisms that heal personal wounds also hold the key to mending the fractured spirit of our collective. Consider, if you will, the nature of empathy. Within a romantic partnership, empathy allows us to bridge the chasm between two distinct subjectivities, to truly feel the joy and sorrow of another as if it were our own, fostering understanding and connection. When this muscle of empathy is exercised and strengthened, it does not discriminate. It seeks to understand the plight of the stranger, the marginalized, the distant other. The ability to recognize the shared humanity beneath superficial differences, honed through the intimate process of loving another, becomes the bedrock upon which a truly compassionate society can be built. We learn to see ourselves reflected not just in the beloved, but in every face we encounter, recognizing the universal struggles and aspirations that bind us all. Similarly, forgiveness, a cornerstone of enduring love, transcends the personal. To forgive a partner is to release the burden of resentment, to choose connection over grievance, and to acknowledge the inherent imperfection of human beings. This profound act of liberation, once mastered in the crucible of personal relationship, prepares us to extend the same grace to those beyond our immediate circle. Can we not, then, envision societies capable of collective forgiveness, moving beyond historical grievances and cycles of retribution to embrace restorative justice and reconciliation? The lessons learned in mending a broken heart become blueprints for mending a broken world. This expansive vision finds resonance across diverse spiritual and philosophical traditions. In Buddhist thought, the cultivation of metta, or loving kindness, begins with oneself, then extends to a beloved, then to friends, strangers, difficult people, and finally, to all sentient beings without exception. This systematic expansion mirrors precisely the trajectory we describe, illustrating a deliberate and cultivated process of universalizing compassion. Likewise, the Christian concept of agape enjoins us to love our neighbour as ourselves, and indeed our enemies, embodying a radical, unconditional love that transcends personal affection. Sufi mystics, having dissolved the ego in the ecstatic love for the divine, often speak of seeing the beloved in every atom of creation, fostering a profound reverence for all life. These traditions are not merely poetic ideals. They offer pragmatic pathways for transforming individual consciousness into a force for collective good. The implications for a global ethic are profound. If we, as individuals, can learn to navigate the complexities of interpersonal love with grace and wisdom, can we not collectively apply these same principles to the intricate web of global relations? Imagine a world where diplomacy is not merely a game of power and self-interest, but an earnest endeavour rooted in mutual empathy and a genuine desire for collective well-being, where economic systems prioritise the flourishing of all rather than the accumulation of a few, driven by a profound sense of interconnectedness rather than ruthless competition, where environmental stewardship is not an obligation, but an expression of our love for the planet that sustains us, recognizing that we are not separate from nature, but an intrinsic part of its delicate balance. This is not to suggest a naive utopianism, blind to the persistent shadows of human nature, the fear, the greed, the tribalism that so often seem to dominate our collective narrative. Indeed, the very challenges we face on a global scale, climate change, social inequality, armed conflict, are often symptoms of a profound disconnection, an inability to extend our circle of care beyond narrow self-interest or group identity. Yet it is precisely in the face of these formidable challenges that the transformative power of love becomes not just an aspiration, but an urgent imperative. The expansion of love beyond the dyad requires a conscious and deliberate shift in perspective, a reorientation of our collective consciousness. It demands that we acknowledge the interconnectedness of all life, moving beyond the illusion of separateness that fuels so much suffering. This is where the integration of psychological insight and spiritual wisdom becomes most potent. Psychology illuminates the unconscious biases and defensive mechanisms that erect barriers between us, while spiritual traditions offer practices and philosophies that systematically dismantle these barriers, fostering a sense of universal kinship. Consider the phenomenon of Quote 31. The psychological process by which we perceive certain groups as fundamentally different and inferior, often leading to prejudice and conflict. The journey of conscious love within a relationship teaches us to confront our own projections and biases, to see the beloved not as an extension of our desires, but as a sovereign being. This same discipline, when applied universally, allows us to dismantle the 32 and recognize the shared humanity in all. We begin to understand that the suffering of one is, in a very real sense, the suffering of all. This universalization of love also speaks to the deepest human longing for belonging and meaning. When we engage in acts of compassion and service, when we contribute to the well-being of the larger community, we tap into a profound sense of purpose that transcends individual gratification. It is in this outward flow of love that we often experience the greatest joy and fulfillment, echoing the spiritual principle that it is in giving that we receive. The individual's journey of self-transcendence through love, first explored in the context of intimate partnership, culminates in a profound connection to the collective, a realization that our personal liberation is inextricably linked to the liberation of all. Of course, the path to a love-centric world is not without its formidable obstacles. The forces of fear, division, and ego are deeply entrenched, both within individual psyches and within societal structures. History is replete with examples of humanity's capacity for cruelty and indifference. Yet, to dismiss the potential of universal love as mere idealism is to ignore the countless acts of courage, altruism, and self-sacrifice that also punctuate our shared story. It is to deny the inherent goodness that, despite all evidence to the contrary, continues to blossom in the most unexpected places. We are not advocating for a simplistic eradication of all conflict, for conflict in its healthy form can be a catalyst for growth and understanding. Rather, we envision a world where conflict is approached with empathy, respect, and a commitment to mutually beneficial resolution, rather than dominance and destruction. A world where differences are celebrated as expressions of life's rich diversity, rather than feared as threats to uniformity. A world where the fundamental interconnectedness of all beings is not merely an abstract concept, but a lived reality that informs our every action and decision. This grand vision, then, serves as the ultimate culmination of our exploration into the psychology of falling in love. We began with the visceral stirrings of attraction, the intricate dance of neurochemicals and attachment patterns, and moved through the challenging yet transformative stages of conscious relating. We discovered how intimate love can be a powerful catalyst for individual healing and spiritual awakening, leading to ego dissolution and a glimpse of divine oneness. Now, we see how these profound personal transformations are not ends in themselves, but stepping stones towards a far greater purpose, the cultivation of a universal love that has the power to heal not just individuals and relationships, but entire societies, and indeed the very fabric of our planet. As we stand on the precipice of this understanding, we recognize that the journey is ongoing, a continuous unfolding of consciousness. The responsibility, therefore, falls upon each of us to cultivate the seeds of love within our own hearts, to practice empathy and forgiveness in our daily interactions, and to consciously expand our circle of compassion. For it is in these seemingly small acts that the possibility of a truly harmonious and interconnected world takes root, growing from the tender shoots of individual love into a mighty forest of universal compassion. This is the profound promise and the ultimate challenge of the psychology of falling in love, to awaken us not just to the beloved, but to the boundless love that resides within and connects all of existence. Having meticulously journeyed through the intricate landscapes of personal affection, from the visceral stirrings of initial attraction to the profound alchemy of conscious enduring partnership, we now stand at the precipice of love's most expansive horizon. For to confine the transformative power of love solely to the intimate dyad would be to misunderstand its very nature, to truncate its inherent trajectory. The crucible of conscious romantic love, we have argued, is not an end in itself, but rather a preparatory ground, a vital training arena where the essential virtues of human connection are forged and refined, ready to be extended, like ripples across a vast ocean, into the wider currents of human experience. We have explored how the beloved serves as a mirror, reflecting not only our idealized projections but also our shadow selves, compelling us toward integration and wholeness. We have witnessed how mindful communication, radical acceptance, forgiveness, and compassion, when diligently practiced within the sacred space of a committed relationship, dismantle the fortresses of individual ego, fostering a shared we space. Yet, the profound insight here is that the skills honed in this intimate laboratory are not exclusive to it. They are universal competencies, transferable virtues designed to elevate humanity beyond the confines of individualistic paradigms. Consider for a moment the profound implications of extending the principles of attachment theory beyond the romantic pairing. if secure attachment within a relationship fosters resilience, trust, and emotional regulation, what might a society built on principles of secure, collective attachment look like? We are speaking here of a social fabric woven with threads of mutual reliance, empathy, and a fundamental belief in the inherent worth and safety of every individual. The secure base that a loving partner provides can, by extension, be cultivated within communities, nations, and ultimately the global human family. When we approach our neighbours, our colleagues, or even those with whom we disagree, with the same patient curiosity and willingness to understand that we offer a beloved, the potential for bridging divides becomes immeasurable. The practice of mindful communication, so vital for navigating relational conflict, finds an urgent resonance in a world fragmented by misunderstanding and polarized discourse. Imagine if political debates were approached with the same dedication to active listening, the same commitment to I statements, and the same intent to understand rather than merely to win that we advocate for within a partnership. The capacity to hold space for another's perspective, even when it diverges sharply from our own, to seek common ground rather than entrenching oneself in opposition, is a direct outgrowth of the relational wisdom gleaned from conscious love. It is the wisdom that recognizes the inherent dignity of the other, even in disagreement, and seeks connection over conquest. Furthermore, the radical acceptance and forgiveness we extend to our partners, acknowledging their imperfections and our own, is the very foundation for universal compassion. If we can forgive the inevitable missteps and shortcomings of a person we intimately love, can we not cultivate a similar forbearance for the broader human condition? The recognition that every individual is a complex tapestry of strengths and vulnerabilities, of light and shadow, fosters an empathic understanding that transcends judgment. This is not a naive overlooking of harm or injustice, but rather a profound recognition of the shared humanity that underlies all actions, inviting a response rooted in healing and restoration, rather than punitive retribution alone. This leads us to the expansion of compassion itself, the metta that Buddhist traditions teach, extending loving kindness first to oneself, then to loved ones, then to neutral persons, then to difficult persons, and finally to all beings without distinction. The intimate relationship, with its inherent challenges and opportunities for growth, is a profound training ground for this expansive heart. When we cultivate compassion for a partner who is struggling, even when their struggles impact us, we are practicing the very empathy required to address systemic suffering in the world. We learn to see beyond the immediate inconvenience or personal affront, to perceive the deeper pain or unmet need that may be driving another's behavior. This capacity, once developed, naturally seeks to alleviate suffering wherever it is found, whether in a struggling family member, a marginalized community, or a distant population facing humanitarian crisis. The dissolution of ego, which we identified as a hallmark of spiritual growth within a conscious partnership, is perhaps the most potent catalyst for universal transformation. When the rigid boundaries of the individual self begin to soften, and we perceive ourselves as inextricably interwoven with another, it becomes a natural progression to perceive our interconnectedness with all life. The we of the couple expands into the we of humanity, and indeed the we of all sentient beings and the planet itself. This is where love transcends mere emotion, and becomes a fundamental principle of existence, revealing the underlying unity of all phenomena. From this perspective, the urgent global challenges that confront us, climate change, social inequality, political polarization, armed conflict, systemic injustices, are not merely complex problems requiring technological or political solutions. They are, at their deepest root, symptoms of a deficit of love, a failure to recognize our profound interconnectedness and shared destiny. When we pollute the environment, we are in essence harming ourselves, for the earth is our larger body. When we perpetuate systems of oppression, we diminish the potential and well-being of the whole. When we engage in conflict, we tear at the fabric of our collective consciousness. Conversely, when love expands to embrace the universal, it catalyzes action rooted in stewardship, justice, and peace. Environmental consciousness becomes an act of love for our planetary home and for future generations. Social justice becomes an imperative born of compassion for those who suffer and a recognition of our shared human dignity. Peace-building is understood as the restoration of harmony within the larger human family. This is the love that impels us to advocate for the voiceless, to stand with the marginalized, to heal the broken, and to mend the ruptures in our collective existence. This expansive love is not a passive sentiment. It is a dynamic, active force. It demands courageous vulnerability, a willingness to engage with discomfort, and an unwavering commitment to the well-being of the whole. It is the love that inspired figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, and countless unsung heroes who dedicated their lives to transcending division and fostering unity. They understood, implicitly or explicitly, that the path to a more just and compassionate world begins with an open heart and a recognition of our shared humanity. Therefore, the journey of falling in love, meticulously deconstructed through the lenses of psychology and spirituality, culminates not merely in personal fulfillment, but in a profound call to collective awakening. It invites us to transcend the self-centered definitions of love and to embody its most radical universal form. It is a love that sees the divine spark in every individual, the sacred in every facet of creation. It is the love that dismantles prejudice, heals historical wounds, and fosters genuine global citizenship. Yet, as we approach this grand culmination, we must also humbly acknowledge that love, even in its most expansive and universal manifestation, retains its essential mystery. It is a force that transcends full articulation, an experience that defies complete intellectual grasp. We can analyze its mechanisms, trace its evolutionary purpose, and illuminate its spiritual dimensions, but we can never fully contain its essence within the confines of language or theory. It remains an invitation, a beckoning, a continuous unfolding. Thus, the journey we have undertaken together, dear reader, is not merely an intellectual exercise, but a profound spiritual quest. It is an invitation to live into the principles we have explored, to embody the conscious love that transforms not only our individual lives, but the very fabric of our shared world. For in the final analysis, the psychology of falling in love is inextricably linked to the psychology of being human, and the spirituality of love is the spirituality of existence itself. It is a constant unfolding, a perpetual becoming, a sacred dance of connection and transcendence, forever inviting us to open our hearts wider, to see more deeply, and to love more completely, until the personal and the universal merge into a seamless tapestry of awakened consciousness, reflecting the inherent unity of all that is. The journey continues, for love, in its infinite wisdom, never truly ends. Having meticulously traced the intricate dance of love from its neurochemical origins to its profound spiritual dimensions, and having explored its alchemy within the intimate dyad, we arrive now at a crucial juncture: the active manifestation of love as a force for collective healing. The enduring we space, forged through radical acceptance and shared understanding between two individuals, is not an insular sanctuary but a crucible wherein virtues are refined for a broader application. The profound insights gleaned from the psychology of personal attachment and the spiritual wisdom of ego dissolution within a loving relationship are not meant to remain confined. They are in essence transferable skills, imperative for navigating the intricate, often turbulent currents of human society. The very dissolution of ego boundaries, the conscious cultivation of compassion, karuna, and the practice of unconditional love, metta, within the private sphere serve as the foundational training ground for a more expansive societal engagement. If the beloved is a mirror reflecting our unhealed wounds and our nascent potential, then the collective humanity becomes a grand, multifaceted mirror, reflecting our shared shadows and our universal longing for connection. This larger reflection reveals that the psychological mechanisms we encounter in intimate relationships, projection, the shadow self, attachment patterns, are merely magnified and collectivized in the grand theatre of human interaction. Nations project their fears and desires onto other nations. Ideologies create collective shadow selves, demonizing those who do not conform, and societal attachment styles, born of historical trauma and systemic inequities, perpetuate cycles of distrust and conflict. The capacity for deep empathy, honed by truly seeing and hearing a partner beyond their projections and defenses, becomes an indispensable tool for navigating the complexities of a diverse world. It challenges the deeply ingrained human tendency towards othering, the psychological mechanism by which we delineate us from them, often demonizing that which we do not understand or that which triggers our own unacknowledged fears. Just as we learn to embrace the perceived imperfections and shadow aspects of a beloved, moving beyond initial idealization to a more authentic and unconditional acceptance, so too are we called to confront the collective shadow. This involves recognizing the shared humanity beneath the superficial divisions of culture, ideology, and belief, understanding that the other is often a reflection of an unmet need or an unacknowledged fear within ourselves or our collective consciousness. This is not a naive overlooking of difference, but a profound commitment to seeking common ground and shared purpose, even amidst profound disagreement. The principles of mindful communication, the pause before reaction, the I statements that articulate personal experience without blame, the active listening that seeks to understand rather than to rebut, are not merely techniques for domestic harmony. They are the very bedrock upon which constructive dialogue, reconciliation, and ultimately peace can be built between disparate groups, communities, and nations. Consider the global stage. How many conflicts escalate due to miscommunication, unacknowledged grievances, or the inability to truly hear the perspective of the perceived adversary? The practices we outlined in Chapter 5, when applied collectively, offer a profound antidote to the polarization that threatens to unravel our societies. Forgiveness, that radical act of releasing resentment and choosing understanding over retribution, transcends the personal. It becomes a societal imperative for healing historical wounds, breaking cycles of violence, and forging pathways toward a shared future. It is not an act of forgetting, but an active, courageous choice to disentangle the present from the corrosive grip of the past, allowing for new possibilities of connection and collaboration to emerge. When love expands beyond the romantic, when it embodies agape, the unconditional, selfless love for humanity, it naturally compels us towards justice. It demands that we not only witness suffering, but actively engage in its alleviation, recognizing that the well-being of any part is intrinsically linked to the health of the whole. The profound interconnectedness, glimpsed in the non-dualistic union of lovers, reveals itself as the fundamental truth of existence. We are, in essence, one. This realization fuels the courage to challenge systemic inequities, to advocate for the marginalized, and to dismantle structures that perpetuate suffering not out of obligation, but out of an overflowing heart. This is love as a revolutionary force, a potent catalyst for social transformation that seeks to align the external world with the inherent dignity and interconnectedness of all beings. It is a love that sees the suffering of one as the suffering of all, and therefore acts with unwavering commitment to alleviate it. Furthermore, this expansive love cannot be confined solely to human relations. It naturally extends its embrace to all sentient beings and to the planetary ecosystem itself. The reverence for life inherent in many spiritual traditions finds its practical expression in ecological stewardship, in sustainable living, and in a conscious recognition of our interwoven destiny with the natural world. To love fully is to acknowledge our place within the grand tapestry of existence, to move from exploitation to symbiotic harmony, understanding that the health of the planet is not separate from our own. This holistic perspective, nurtured by an integrated understanding of love, compels us to act as conscious custodians of our shared home, recognizing the sacredness inherent in every aspect of creation. This is love as an ecological imperative, a profound call to re-establish balance and respect within the intricate web of life. Yet we are acutely aware that such an expansive vision of love is not without its formidable challenges. The path of collective awakening is arduous, fraught with the inertia of ingrained biases, the seductions of tribalism, and the formidable defenses of fear. To sustain compassion in the face of widespread suffering, to maintain empathy amidst profound disagreement, and to choose understanding over condemnation, requires a courageous and unwavering commitment. It is not a passive sentiment, but an active, continuous engagement, demanding vigilance, resilience, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths within ourselves and within our societies. This journey mirrors the ongoing work within an intimate relationship, where growth is never truly complete, and the invitation to open the heart wider is perpetually renewed. The work of collective love is never finished. It is a perpetual unfolding, a continuous striving towards a more harmonious and just existence. It requires us to continually challenge our own conditioning, to lean into discomfort, and to choose courageously the path of connection over separation, even when the currents of society pull us towards division. Here, the integrated lens of this essay proves invaluable. Psychological insights illuminate the unconscious mechanisms that drive collective conflict, our projections, our shadow aspects writ large upon nations and ideologies, our attachment insecurities manifesting as nationalistic fervour or xenophobia. Understanding these deep-seated patterns allows us to approach societal challenges not merely as moral failings, but as expressions of underlying psychological dynamics that can be understood, addressed, and ultimately transformed. Simultaneously, spiritual wisdom provides the moral compass and the transcendent vision, reminding us of our inherent unity, of the sacred thread that connects all beings, and of love as the ultimate reality. It offers the framework for meaning, purpose, and the enduring hope that transformation is not only possible but divinely ordained. It is in this dynamic interplay, this synthesis of the how and the why, that we find the most potent pathways towards collective transformation, bridging the chasm between individual experience and global imperative. As we draw this exploration to its close, we recognize that the psychology of falling in love ultimately transcends the individual experience. It is a microcosm of a universal truth, a potent laboratory for the cultivation of virtues that are not merely desirable, but absolutely essential for the flourishing of human civilization. The invitation, therefore, extends beyond personal fulfillment. It is a call to participate consciously in the grand evolutionary dance of compassion, connection, and collective awakening. The final chapter will endeavour to synthesize these threads, offering a culminating vision of love as the ultimate answer, the perennial wisdom, and the enduring hope for our shared future.